Amazing. Good luck.
Thank you.
Perfect. Talk to you later. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Okay, so we are live. Hello, everyone. I am shortly getting set up, so adding you all. And we'll share my screen shortly. And making sure that everyone has access. Hi, Bill. Pleased to have you today at the workshop. Very good. Ready. How's everyone doing today?
Good, thanks, Alex. Hope you're doing all right.
Yeah, very good. Exciting. Very happy to showcase Airtable AI today. It was a good opportunity for me to also take a look at what has changed lately. There were a couple of good surprises while preparing this session, so it was really the team at Airtable has been shipping a lot of interesting updates, especially on the AI side. I'm very much looking forward to share all of this with you. I'm sharing my screen now, and you should see. Yeah, you can see the slide.
Yes.
Okay. We're gonna wait a little bit longer. Need my notes and I need my screen. Huh? Perfect. Okay. So almost ready.
And while we're waiting,
Do we have
hello.
Airtable pros here? Or do we have mostly beginners? Or do we have people that are curious, never seen the platform? Let me know in the chat. I'm not, yeah, doing the right one. Okay, super. And okay, I am kind of set up. Can't be perfectly set up. First time, beginners, grosse star, pas du tout, Alex. New to Airtable, but I've heard good things. Okay, very good. I'm gonna put the chat up there so I can see everyone. And 59 people out of 260 registered. So I hope we'll get a little bit more people joining the session. For those who are watching us on YouTube, hi. I won't be able to see your comments on YouTube. I will see the comments in Zoom. And I can let more people in. Okay, perfect. Okay, here we go. Admit all. All right, perfect. I think I'm good to go. Okay, so we have a couple of beginners among you, a couple of people who have already looked into it. I'll try to accommodate for everyone. Welcome to this Airtable workshop. Today we're going to be looking at Airtable AI in particular, so which is a set of features that have come most recently in Airtable since last year, I believe, like beginning of last year. And at the menu, we're going to have an overview of Airtable. But first, I'm going to give you a a brief introduction of who we are, in case it's the first time you are attending one of these workshops. So we are at 9x, go9x.com. We are building your one-stop shop to learn AI and automation. We believe AI and automation skills are going to be the most relevant skills to learn in the future. And we are on a mission to deliver those skills to you on a silver platter. We offer courses. We do live sessions like this one. And we do things all the way down to custom cohort programs for companies. Before we start, yeah, can you hear me correctly? Oh, and I need to record, sorry. Start the recording now. No, the recording is good. Okay, perfect. Before we start, I have 60 seconds, 90 seconds of advertisements with 3 important infos. So first, there is a workshop next week, which will cover how to enrich your CRM with Clay. Yeah, okay. Please stay muted. So how to enrich Attio with Clay. I will cover our very own setup, internal setup at 9x. So we're using Clay to enrich Attio. If you are into sales operations, RevOps, that's the kind of workshop that you don't want to miss to see what is possible today with AI, and in particular with Clay, which is a very good tool with that regards. I will drop in the chat the link to the workshop if you want to register. So here's the link. And perfect. Second advertisement. We are live on YouTube at the same time as being on Zoom. You can subscribe to our channel. We post videos every week on AI and automation. So make sure to subscribe. I will add the link right here. Same again. Sorry, there's a lot of things to share. Okay. And third and last piece, the AI and Automation Master, which is our course. This course gives you lifetime access to all the content we make and we've created so far. There's more than 100 hours on AI and automation, practical demos, exercises, unlimited access to all the 9x Live workshops that we do, access to our Slack community. I will also drop the link here for everyone to follow. Okay. All right. So that was for the brief introduction. Now we're going to see today what is Airtable. We're going to cover what is Airtable AI in particular. And then we're going to take a look at a couple of demos specifically focusing on Airtable AI. So first, what is Airtable? So back to you. I have any of you like in the chat, can you let me know roughly who has already used Airtable, who is a beginner, before we dive into this introduction? Now grab just a glass of water. So NA10, we have some beginners here. Beginner, long-time user. Okay. Super. So this first section is for those of you who are more beginners. I'll give you a brief overview of what is Airtable. So Airtable is one of the leading no-code app builders. And with Airtable, the big advantage is that you can build applications that fit your exact needs. So you've probably encountered the pain of using software that is not quite made for you, that doesn't fit your exact needs. We're using these tools every day, and they don't always work the way we want. With Airtable, the promise is that you can build software that solves your exact problems, that fit your exact needs. Now, building can be daunting, and after all, we have engineers that are usually responsible for building application for us. And so the goal of this session is to show you that Airtable is making it actually quite easy for us non-developers to build those custom applications. Before we take a look at the platform, some basic foundations of software architecture. At a high level, any app you are using is going to have three main layers that form its architecture. First, you have the interfaces. So that's the front end you interact with. Those are like the buttons you click, the screens you create, and so on. The logic in the middle, that's the part that is going to automate workflow steps, that is going to trigger actions for us in the background, that automates some of the things that we do inside those applications. And we have the database. The database is where we're going to store our data, the data that we manage. So if you build a small app with Airtable to manage your invoices, you are going to store invoices in a table, for instance. Okay, so keep this in mind. Any software, interfaces, logic, and database, those are the three layers. And building on Airtable happens on those three layers. So for those of you who have never seen Airtable, let's jump right into it. I have this example. I wanted to start maybe with a demo of a finished app, but just for those who have never seen Airtable, those three layers are right here. You have the data section. This is the database, where we create different tables to store our information. So here in this case, the example I'm going to show is an app where we can manage promotional campaigns. So we have campaigns, we have assets that we're working on. We have a company directory. This is the different custom tables we're going to create. Then we have the section automation. So this is where we're going to create our logic. You can see here this app has a few automations configured. And then finally, we have on top of the database, we have the interfaces, custom screens, buttons, and sections that we're going to use to have our users interact with the data of our app. So that's at a high level, the three layers where you're going to build in Airtable. We're not going to be building anything from scratch today. I'm just going to show different things. But just be aware that some of the things I'm going to show you, they happen in those three layers. Speaking of what you can build, what can you do with Airtable? What is very interesting when you talk to different companies that have implemented Airtable is that there's not a single use case and everybody's doing their own implementation or has different applications. So no one has the same version of Airtable. We're all building different versions now. Some examples of apps that you can build. You can manage your campaigns. So if you're managing marketing campaigns, you could build a custom app to streamline this process. You could put your customers' feedback inside an Airtable base and start analyzing it. You could create also simple dashboards. There are some interfaces where you can visualize the data inside your database. That is not a replacement for a BI tool. You're not going to replace your entire BI software with Airtable. But if you have some needs for smaller visualizations on smaller data sets, it's actually relatively easy to build dashboards with Airtable. Okay. So in the demo, the first example that's not going to involve AI or not so much, just for you to see an example, is this campaign approval. So back to our app here. So when the app is finalized here, what we have a simple feature is the possibility for campaign managers to create a campaign here by just clicking Add Campaign. A form is displayed. So this is entirely customizable inside Airtable and interfaces. Let's say what is an upcoming event in June? Oh, it's Father's Day, right? Father's Day campaign. I think it's coming soon. We can specify some data points. So let's say it's a 4-week campaign. Specify some goals, create the campaign. it's going to appear right here at the bottom. Wait a second. Okay, super. And the power of Airtable is that we're able to automate some of the steps. And here, the simple first step that we automated using Airtable automation is depending on the type of campaign, and I think I selected standard, we automatically generated the assets to create. They are named the right way. And we could have even pushed the logic a bit further and dynamically adjust the date for these assets to be posted with respect to the start date of the campaign or the end date of the campaign. And so Airtable makes it relatively easy, like building this type of automation and interface is relatively easy and intuitive. And that's where a lot of processes that you currently have maybe in spreadsheets are better, let's say, digitalized and better put once you have an app of this kind. So that's an example for Airtable at a high level. Now we're going to dive into the last, really the last piece of the puzzle, or the most recent piece of the puzzle that they've been shipping since now last year, which is Airtable AI. And Airtable AI, this is not a small addition to an already very comprehensive product that allows you to build custom apps. It is a little bit a revolution, and they are really rethinking entirely the product through the lens of AI. So what is Airtable AI? At a high level, you have 4 families of features. I hope I don't get this wrong from Airtable folks here, but I think you have like 4 different AI features that you will find inside Airtable with different goals in mind. First, we have Co-Builder. Co-Builder, we're going to see a demo very soon. It lets you build, instead of starting from scratch, with Airtable, you can now prompt your projects. So if you think about the trend of vibe coding and just writing your specs in Replit, Cursor, or Lovable generates the code for the app, well, Airtable has its own version in its environment that is going to generate, based on your description, an Airtable base, so the database, the interfaces, and now the automations that match your description. Second, Airtable has, and that's the most recent addition, Airtable has released an AI assistant. And that's the thing I hadn't played with before preparing for this workshop. And I must say, it really blew my mind. So it is an assistant that helps you build what you usually do inside Airtable with buttons. If you want to add a table, you're going to click create table. If you want to add fields, you're going to configure them. And now you can instead chat with an assistant. And if your instructions are clear enough and make sense, you could potentially build your Airtable base by just talking to your assistant. We're going to see a little bit what you can do with it and some of the limitations. And then finally, we have AI fields on one side, which are database fields that auto-populate where you can nest prompts. And they are, in my opinion, the easiest way now, if you want to get started with AI automation. You've probably heard of other tools like Na10, Make, Zapier, and so on. I would argue that AI fields in Airtable are the easiest starting points. It is really super easy to configure. With these tools, you still have a little bit of, there's a bit more to engineer. And if it's your very, very first time trying AI workflows and AI automations, it might be a bit difficult. And finally, we have AI workflows or AI actions inside Airtable automations. And we're going to see a few examples. Okay, so Co-Builder, this is right here. That's how it looks like. We're going to start with a little demo, so not this one. And this is Airtable Co-Builder. And basically, whenever you start an Airtable project, I should maybe go back previous page. If we click create to create a new Airtable project, traditionally you had originally you had only the option to start from scratch. So this is the starting point, historical starting point with Airtable, an empty table and everything to figure out for yourself. Personally, I love it because I love building an Airtable, but I can understand that for many people, it's not, especially if it's the first time and you want to see what's possible, that's maybe not ideal. And so Airtable launched, and I believe this was their first AI feature. Airtable launched CoBuilder. Build an app with AI. CoBuilder quickly turns your process into a custom app with data and interfaces. Okay. And so the starting point here is just going to be a prompt. So they help you. You can also now import spreadsheets and documents. I haven't tried that, to be honest. So that's something you could experiment. Maybe if you have a Google Sheet, that is maybe something to try. If you have a Google Sheet where you currently manage your process, why not try uploading it and see what Airtable can generate and see if there's a version and an app that you can create out of your Google Sheet. But without documents, what CoBuilder requires from you is the prompt. And the prompt can be very high level. So you can say an expense management solution. You click next. In this second view, you're going to preview what Airtable CoBuilder thinks you want. And you're going to still be able to make changes. So it's generating our app. Every app is going to start with your database, with the tables, with what you're going to store in it. And we can see we have the first tables that are suggested. Not only it's going to suggest tables, it's also here what you can preview are the interfaces it suggests. You can see I have already a table where I can submit an expense report. These are some of the fields. And if I click create this app, and wait a little bit longer, we will get an app generated. Now, here's one trick that we have discovered with Airtable CoBuilder that I think is you can generate a good prototype or a good demo to impress your neighbor, but I think it's still very far from generating something that you can use. Why? Because I didn't get involved at all in defining what we have there. I don't want notes. I don't have this notion of financial reports or the data was guessed for me, and that is not really how I would want to build things. I probably have specific requirements that I already have in mind. And so for this, there's a little trick, which I will show you. So you're first going to go to Chat GPT. So the trick comes from this tutorial here. I will share in the chat right here. And I'll go in ChatGPT. So what is the trick? Let's look at this prompt. Role, you are a database schema expert. And database schema is basically, it's a fancy name for the tables, the different tables and the different fields that we want to have for each table and how these tables relate to each other. So you are a database schema expert. Your task is to help me create a prompt for Airtable CoBuilder that will create the schema of my dream app. Here's the format. Here's an example. So if I had a context table, I would have some fields, first name, last name, email, company. Guidelines, you can refer to this article, and we're pointing to the documentation of Airtable. Only output the database schema, no commentary. Create a prompt for a expense management solution. And there, it is doing what Airtable CoBuilder is probably doing in the background, thinking what might make sense. But here you still have the options. You're going to take this output. You're going to look at what makes sense to keep or not. And this is the input you are going to give CoBuilder. So if I go back to CoBuilder itself, let's create another one. And instead, I paste this. CoBuilder is going to follow those instructions. So now you have a way with Airtable CoBuilder to prompt exactly what you want to prompt your database. And this is going to save considerable amount of time, given that the alternative is you will need to create each field manually. And that can take quite some time. So if we give that to CoBuilder, we'll let it run. It'll come back in a minute, but we have our database schema here. So there should be a table expenses, a table projects, employees, and clients. And we can check some of the fields or some of the tables once everything is generated. So that's for CoBuilder. I'll get back to the generated app in a minute. And that's the first feature. I think it's great to bootstrap or to kickstart your project. That's not going to help you cross the finish line. To help you cross the finish line, Airtable has shipped more recently an AI assistant. And like most AI assistants, my first reaction was, I'm not going to use this because I already know how to build on top of Airtable. So that's not for me. But actually, by testing it, I realized that it might not be such a smart idea to ignore the AI assistant because with the right methodology, you have a way to work much faster, to build much faster, potentially, than knowing in and out the interface and knowing where to click. So if we dive into Airtable again, and this time I'm going to start a project from scratch. So this is what we're going to build. All right, yeah. So Airtable project from scratch. We have a table called table one. This is the default setting from Airtable. This is not much. And I have a CSV with 100-ish no-code platforms, their name and the website domain. So the first thing we can do with the AI assistant, well, like how far can it help me create the table and create functionality? Let's open it. So the assistant has the context about the project we are looking at. We can see everything it can do. So you can query it for questions about your database. But it can create things. And that in particular is very interesting because suddenly like the UI might might become redundant now because we're able to, maybe if we have a long set of instructions, we might be able to get to our end result faster. So let's see if we can create a table. I already have one, but just to show, create a table tools with two properties. We start easy. Name and domain. Okay. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you what we have for CoBuilder. Let's see. We're putting a lot AI at work. So it's already done for our task. It was a relatively simple task, but if I have 25 fields to create and have them listed here, I might be able to get that done faster. You will notice that for those of you who know Airtable in and out, there's a better field type for this, which is the URL. And so it went by default select a single line text field. Not ideal, but probably if my prompt was more specific, we would also get to the result that we want. Okay, so we can create tables. It cannot create records, I believe, or I didn't manage to make it work. Let me see. Yes, it can create fields. It can create the architecture, the infrastructure, but it's not going to be able to generate records for you. So you still have to go either import data and so on. Luckily, I have that data right here in Notion maybe. So I have this CSV we're going to import. Yeah. 1 second. Let me know if you have any questions on what I've shown? Okay. Well, okay, and 1 second. I'm going to import that data. So this is I'm going to use something very not AI for this, which is one of their first tools, the CSV importer. So I'm adding this capability to import CSV data. And we have the name and the domain, and this should be good to go. Okay, very good. Now we have 100-ish records. Super. So what else can we do with assistance? We cannot create records. I have to do this manually, but we can create fields. And this was quite convincing when I tried it. So create an AI field to categorize these tools. Like we have now a list of, these are all like the major no-code platforms. And in no-code, there are different types of tools. There are some tools that are app builders, others are form builders, others like Airtable are more on the internal tooling side, I would say. So it is different categories, different flavors, and it would help me to categorize these. But I'm not gonna do it the old way and do it manually. We're going to use an AI field, and we're going to use AI to generate that AI field. Create an AI field to categorize these tools. This is a very complicated prompt. It's going to think, so it has the context of the table in question. We let it work a little bit. And our field appears. And why is this relevant to do it by AI? Not because clicking and creating a field, I can do it in the UI. But here, an AI field is going to have a prompt. And it's also generating the prompt for me. So we're saving a lot of time there and having like a starting point for each of those fields just by instructing create an AI field to categorize these tools. Can you share the database list of no-code tools? I asked ChatGPT to generate a list of 100, the 100 most famous, most popular no-code platforms, and as CSV. There's no curation from our side on this list. Okay, so that back to our AI field. This is an AI field. It has been generated, and I really believe this is the simplest way to build automations. It is a form of automation because you can turn it to automatically generate the values. And why is it the easiest? Because all you have to do is write your prompt and define which properties you're going to feed into that prompt. So if I save here, what happens when I click generate here? Not only the prompt will be sent to ChatGPT, but also the parameters adalo and adalo.com. They're going to be pasted right here, respectively. For the next row, it's going to be Airtable and Airtable.com, which means that we are going to get vastly different results here. Okay. Now, one thing on this AI field, very interesting, but we have a problem here. Do we have a classification, or do we have every time a category that is generated? If you want to end up with a chart where we're going to see which like the 5 or 10 categories, we need not text, we need a single select. You can do that with Airtable AI. Just be careful that when you toggle the field type, the prompt is going to disappear. So I'm going to copy it first. I'm going to toggle that to AI single select. See, prompt disappeared. Don't lose your work. Paste again. We are back. And here the difference with this field and the previous one is we have predefined values right here. Actually, these are not correct values. I'm going to put We want to do a little bit of manual work here. So we have ad builders. We have automation platforms. So anything like N8N, Zapier will fall into this category. Make. We have backends. We have what I would call internal tools, internal tool builders, and I would put Airtable in there. Can do a lot of things. Form builders, website builder. Why you didn't ask the assistant to change the field type? Because I'm already I'm not thinking as fast as you, but maybe I should have done that. Yes. And the reason is I'm not sure I can prompt the categories of the field, but actually we probably can. Shall we try? Let's just try. So just create an AI field type of tool with three single select options, and then we're going to do database, automation platform, and form builder, just to see if it works. Who knows? So in the meantime, now we have our data set. We're going to create one just next to it. We can generate everything automatically, save, and then this is generating. So not only it is generating for the existing records, but if we were to add another tool, it would, and as soon as the prompt variables are available. So if I create a new tool, this is not going to generate anything. Why? Because we are missing some fields in our prompt. But the split second we have a name and a domain, the prompt is firing up and the result is pasted. Okay, not bad. Not bad. We categorize all our tools. Not so much manual work. Yeah, so it did create a single select for our type of tool, but it did not. I think with a better prompt, you should probably be able to prompt this field. Yeah. Okay. Still on the assistant. Now we have some information about the different tools. Why not visualize that? And instead of going inside the interface builder and doing that manually, is it possible to generate the visualization with the assistant? The answer is yes. So if we, again, a simple request, create a dashboard interface with one pie chart showing the tools per category. So it is processing. It is actually already done, I believe. And here we go. And you can imagine, so the thing I have not tested for the assistant and with AI in general, the longer and the more complex the instructions, the more chances there are that it deviates from your original idea. So right now, I just showed you like it is possible. We just generate an interface with one chart, one dashboard with one chart. Question is, if we have a list of charts that we want to display, will it still manage to build everything? But if you are precise in your instructions and you don't overload the AI assistant, I'm pretty sure you are able to prompt your dashboards now. Pretty cool, no? This one was really interesting. It suggested a filter also. You can filter per category. And we went from CSV to visualize data in a relatively. I spend most of the time talking and not doing anything, just pasting very short prompts. Okay. Couple more things on the AI field itself. So the AI field, Airtable makes it very clear that they want you to build with AI because this is going to accelerate your data collection, is going to automate some data processing steps for you. And so the AI field is right here. And they are adding consistently more options. So initially it was just able to generate text. We've seen that you can generate a single select or multiple selects. You can also extract numbers. You have these new additions with percentage and currency. What's important and a bit hidden with the AI field is this little toggle here. Allow access to the internet. This means Airtable can browse the web. And so this means for a lot of tasks that we have on a daily basis, if this requires checking something online, if you have the URL stored somewhere, you could imagine putting all the links of your websites and having Airtable AI browse and extract the text or run some analysis once a month of the entire website. This little toggle is really, really powerful, in my opinion. You just need to enable it. Then you have the choice of the model with not the most recent yet, not all the most recent, like the Claude 4 Sonnet is not, or 4 Haiku is not there yet. But powerful enough models to complete most of the tasks we want from them. We're not here to generate applications. This is more a micro data management task. These models would be more than enough here. And so, for instance, the type of analysis you can do at scale once you have this type of field and access to the internet allowed. You could say recent news and look for recent news about, and here we're going to insert the name of the company, the websites. Focus only on news in May. Yeah, we'll just say May 2025. Very basic prompt. This is not a good example, maybe. This is where most of the time should be spent, is making those prompts better. So here I'm just showcasing the functionality, but to get better and better results, it is really going to be you iterating on that prompt. So let's see what we found for, who do we want to know? ChatGPT, we hear a little bit too much. Coda, for instance, like direct competitor. Any news of Coda? Or any news of, let's say another one, Levity. I think it's a Berlin-based company. Okay, so Coda, based on search results, here are the recent news. And that is the format we got. You see I didn't include the links in this case. And probably the search for Levity is going to return a different format. Why? Because I've not prompted. Let's see, maybe it is doing already. It is actually quite standardized already. That's a nice touch from Airtable to do that. But if your prompt is very vague, you could get very different results also in the format of the response. So if you want to just have the article and the link, no commentary, nothing at the beginning, based on the search results, you will need to have a prompt that is a little bit more detailed. You will need to elicit what you do not want the Airtable AI to output, and then eventually you will get to a result that match your expectations. Okay, so we've seen I'm going to generate a few there, so we have a bit of content here. Viewing data in, especially when it's news like this, that is stored on different it's not very convenient to view the data this way. It is stored, that's great. What if we could have an interface to just review each of the tools individually whenever there's some news? And why not prompt it while we're there? So that's another one. And for this one, little trick, I already know how the interface is called. So maybe I should show you. Inside interfaces, like this interface builder of Airtable, is also quite smart because it doesn't put the burden on us users to design every single detail. What Airtable decided to do, which I think is very smart decision, is to restrict your options in terms of interfaces to the usual suspects. So you can have a list view, you can have a gallery if you want to display assets, you can have a calendar. You're going to be able to tweak those interfaces, but basically these are your options. And my prompt is basically saying, generate this interface, this type of interface for me. So create a record review interface for tools. Here again, it should appear. And you will see why I like this interface. It is much more comfortable if we want to review the information that is stored in our table, because we have now this type of view here. So let's say if we have the news for Notion, it still needs to search. But you get the idea. We're going to have a custom interface, much more comfortable for you to visualize and read the data that you have inside your Airtable base. Let's take one that has already loaded. Oh, no, perfect. Okay, so that's quick demo on what you can do with the assistant. No, one last thing. Can it generate automations? It can. That's and actually that is sort of a game changer. It doesn't generate yet automations in all the cases that you can just turn on because they've been perfectly configured, but close enough. So let's try this last prompt with the assistant. Generate an automation. So we're still in this idea of I have this database of tools. I want to be in the know of what's new, and maybe it would be good to get every Monday search for recent news and paste the results in a news field. So instead of doing it this way where I need to click, I would have a news field, which is just a long text right here. And I want every Monday an automation to go through all of these, search for the news, paste the results here, and then potentially you could also have a notification at the end. So what do we get here? Let's see if it does something different than when I tested. It didn't get, I'm not certain it generates with AI. The generate with AI actions are going to be included. It missed one step, but it was close enough for the rest. And this means that there's not much left to configure. It still places the burden on your side to understand what was built, challenge that it's built actually the right way, and eventually bring the finishing touches before we have a working automation. For the automation, I also noticed that the assistant tends to spend more time thinking. It's also the last thing that Airtable allowed it to generate. So we've been able to generate exactly. So the AI side is missing. We've been able to generate database tables and interfaces with CoBuilder for a while now, and only recently we've been able to generate automation. So this is the newest stuff I'm showing you here, and right away. So the logic makes sense. We're just missing one step. So what did it generate? A schedule trigger every Monday at 9 a.m. So far, so good. Find records, find the tools in grid view. So we only have one here, so we'll get all the tools. And then it is not mapping the list. So the thing that we still need to do is to map the list that we found. So for each tool, I'll just rename, find all tools for each tool. And it's missing that one piece here. And the last important feature of Airtable AI, and by far my favorite, generate with AI inside automations. Which is the same principle as the AI field. You have a prompt and you can inject any of the fields of the record that is going through the automation. So we're going to be able to put the name of the tool, and I'm going to, that's why I also did it this way. I'm going to steal this prompt. Look for recent news about what? About the current item's name, domain. Okay. So it's going to generate and I want to allow internet access, because otherwise you are going to get very creative news. So search for news. You will argue it's still a bit faster. I didn't have to configure everything. And then eventually we need to update the record. And then here again, since it didn't do the mapping, so it didn't specify which record because we didn't have the list provided here. And so that is current item record ID, and we paste in, yeah, recent news value. Interesting. Ah, no, it did. It did. Very interesting. But it misunderstood, but it basically planned on taking the outcome of this and pasting it here. Not bad, not exactly what it wouldn't make sense, but at least it tried to do all the end. So what we're pasting instead, we're going to paste the result of the previous step. And that's it. That's pretty much it. So just to demo it so we can see, I'm going to change the trigger to a checkbox so we can see it in action. Trigger search, yeah. And when a record is matches conditions, and that is when trigger search is true. Well, it's going to be, I'm going to trigger everything, so doesn't make much sense, but at least automation should trigger. Now, if we look in the history, I think our first, that's our automation that's currently running. It is repeating for every single tool, and it should be starting pasting. So we should have the news of AppGyver. Exactly. And now it is updating. And if we bring it to the interface, we can see the news right here. Yeah. So at a high level, like what you could do with the assistant. I would say from on the data and interfaces side, a precise prompt will already yield very good results. I don't think you can do your entire database this way, but maybe one table at a time. And for automations, I think it's a pretty good starting point. I don't think it's good to turn on yet, and especially if you're starting with Airtable and you want to figure out how do I build those automations? Maybe it's also a good point to put your initial idea, give it to the assistant and see what it returns. And maybe it's a good way also to figure out, okay, that is how it thinks about building it. Okay. All good so far? Any questions? I have a couple more things to show, but I'm happy to stop for questions. All good? Okay. So Now I want to show you a couple of examples of use cases and their applications. So things that we have in the either as tutorials on our websites, things that we use internally. I want to start with a very simple reports facts extractor. Very simple. Why? Because it's basically just 4 fields. So we have a document or report title. We have a file because Airtable AI can read files. That's amazing. You can give it 80-page PDF. It can read the document. It takes a bit more time, but it's still a bit faster than if you have to read it yourself. And then I added little, let's say, variable or a little feature on top instead of saying extract always the same information. Maybe it depends on the report you want to analyze. Maybe you have different things you're looking for. And so I added this field facts to extract with the usual suspects. So the highlights, are there some important quotes, statistics? Do they mention any use case? Some experts? And the prompt is the following. You will be given a document and a set of instructions for extracting specific information from it. Your task is to carefully read both the document and the instructions, then extract and summarize the relevant content according to the guidelines. Here's the document to analyze. For those of you who have never seen that before, these are called HTML tags or XML tags, and they are separating instructions from context. So Airtable knows, okay, that's the doc. And then here, Airtable knows those are the facts I'm expected to extract. So the values we have right here. Do we always need to add that? I think it depends on the platform. I actually don't know if Airtable requires that. So if they don't do it themselves already. In general, I just always do it no matter the platform. Separating context from instructions, separating different, or if you have an example at the end of what good looks like, you want to specify, you want to separate so that it's not mixed. And one of the key tips in prompting is being extra clear. And those separators are here to bring that clarity to the LLM. Because at the end of the day, everything you have is just text. So our documents are facts to extract, which are going to change depending on what I select. And then some guidelines on reading the document, summarizing, some formats, expected formats, and that's more or less that. Can preview. So this one's going to be 9 credits. And I bring this to the interface. So same, we have our report, our record review interface, which I find quite convenient because we have a lot of real estate to display information, especially if we're extracting information. It's maybe better this way. We can upload our new report from there. So I have one report with AI won't just assist people, it will replace them. So a bit like a catastrophic title by Winning by Design. It's actually a very good report. Just the title is a little bit too alarmist, in my opinion. Okay, so it's uploading the file right now, and I can specify. I can specify what to extract. So, for instance, are there some good quotes here? And since it's a report on sales and GTM automation, I want to know your use cases, maybe some stats, or maybe not. I just to do these two. Okay. So it's adding, and since it's in, I need to click generate. I could have this automated, like by generating automatically. So as long as the facts to extract are provided and the report is provided, this would trigger automatically the analysis. And that was pretty fast. It was not a very long report. Quotes, market leaders will leverage AI to replace 70% of their GTM efforts, and this will happen faster than expected. AILG, AI-led growth, is about elevating the quality of every customer interaction, setting a new standard in customer engagement, and causing sustainable growth. Some use cases that were mentioned. So that's very cool. Now think about, this is what you can do with a report. So we don't have to read them anymore, or at least we can pre-screen them that way. What can you do with contracts? What can you do with invoices? What can you do with all those standard documents? Think about data extractions, think about data summarization. There's a lot of use cases there. And the build is not very impressive, you know? It's not, it's 4 fields, 1 variable. So there's a lot you can do, and it's within reach without becoming an automation specialist. And I think is the great strength of Airtable there is to really make that very accessible. Okay. Can I extract text from picture or PowerPoint slides? I think you can, yeah. Yes, I tried a picture and it reads the pictures. Yeah. Next demo, I have 2 more. Time flies. Can you give an idea of costs? I think it's priced in. That is one thing. Airtable AI will be usually more expensive than other solutions. That if you go directly through an LLM provider and you tweak your workflows with Make or N8N. I do not have an exact, maybe there's some folks at Airtable that can answer this question. If there's anyone in the call from Airtable, I do not remember the calculation on the credits, but yeah, I would say I think it's slightly more expensive than if you do it inside, if you call via API, OpenAI, and call directly yourself. Okay, so 2 more examples. And here I'm going to show you our templates for the automation roadmap. And what's the idea of this template? This template is for companies, for you and your teams to think about what you can automate in your business. And the hard part in that is documenting. Documenting takes ages. I haven't heard of anyone who enjoys doing that. It's often considered a waste of time, or you like to do other things instead of writing down how things work. But that's also very helpful. And when we want to identify what are our processes to automate, we have to go first to the whiteboard, or we have to go first look at our processes. So try to figure out, are there ways we can give you some help when trying to figure out what to automate? And so I built this template. So what do we have in there? Well, first an analysis of here are the different people in your organizations and their teams, the tools that we use at work. These are our operational processes, our business objects that help us get work done. So business objects can include invoices if you work in accounting, they can be deals and companies if you work in sales, etc., etc. And then with Airtable AI, we were able to have an experience that looks like this. So let's say this is our team. I'm going to delete this one. So let's say we have an education team that is making the courses. I create a new team here. Can we automate the description just based off the name of the team? We can have an AI field for that. Based on the description that's going to be generated, could we guess already what are the usual candidates in terms of processes, and could we already create them? So the team is managing education initiatives, programs, or projects. Curriculum development, yeah, that sounds at a high level, that sounds correct. So why don't we suggest processes? Of course, that's going to involve a bit of hit and miss because AI cannot guess your reality, your context. It is excellent at generating an infinite amount of options. So it is good to get started. It doesn't replace the work of actually specifying your exact context and your exact requirements. Yeah. So this one's running a bit longer. Why? Because that's a little trick that I'm using in different automations. That's a little trick I use to generate entire records. So generated processes. Let's look at student assessment management. It generated the name of the process, a short description. It generated the process steps as per a template I give it. So we have the steps first summarized here, and then each step clearly and shortly defined. So assessment planning, tool development, implementation, data analysis, reporting. As you can see here, in my opinion, it doesn't make much sense what was returned. And that's the problem with AI. It's going to be as good as your prompts and it's going to be as good as the context you give you. Outcomes, but we were able to generate all of that in one click. And once, let's say we have our list of processes that are, okay, AI generated, but human reviewed and valid. And let's say we've already done the work of mapping all those and describing the different processes. Then step 2 is to go, or we can stay in the team where we had it already there and say, okay, now I want you to suggest automations for this team. The very same process. We have an automation that's going to look at the team description, the team processes, and is going to suggest ways to automate these processes. So that's how far we went with the template. There's probably a few more things we could automate there, but as a starting point, we only require eventually the name of the team, and the rest can be entirely AI generated. How this one works behind the scenes, you will notice like the actions we were doing so far with inside automations generate with AI. It returns one piece of text. So how do we get to generating an entire record with different properties? And this is the trick. You are going to generate your response as what we call a JSON with several properties. So let's look at the prompt here, and you can see better. You are tasked with generating a list of processes for a given business function. Your goal is to break down the function into specific actionable processes that contribute to its overall purpose. This is the function. This is the description, already AI generated. So you can see, you could imagine in the future that we're chaining a lot of these things, and if the prompts are good, we can just sit and watch AI do the job. But this is provided the prompts are good. And that the chain of quality is not broken. So we still have a lot of work to do in configuring that. The existing processes that were generated in the already associated to the function. So this was one logic that I added to prevent my automation from generating existing processes. So if we're already talking about a YouTube video recording and publishing process, I didn't want AI to generate a second suggestion that is very similar. So this is what we do here. We put the automation as context. For each process, provide the name, the description, expected outcome, and the steps. Then we have some guidelines, rather detailed on the what to navigate to the result. And we have then the format. And here's the trick. You want to output the result in JSON format. And what's a JSON format? It stands for JavaScript Object Notation. And that's a format that allows us to generate several properties. Namely, we have the name, we have the description, we have the outcomes, we have the steps. These are exactly the name, the description, the steps, these are the separate, and the outcomes, these are the separate properties I want to populate. So step one, you generate a JSON with those properties. Step two, and we can look at test data. We're going to run a script of 3 lines of code that parses this JSON. That is going to basically allow us to access each individual property. That's it. It is always the same script, like just the way you name things, like but it is also always the same 3 lines of code. And just for you to see the difference between each step. So you see the results. So when the button is clicked, okay, generate with AI. This is the response that gets generated. We get each of these is a process with a name, a description, outcomes, and steps. Okay. You will notice we have one big chunk of text. And that is the problem, and the reason why we do this operation with JSON is the other option would be to prompt Airtable AI for every single property, but that's a little bit overkill. So instead, we want to generate all these properties and all these processes in one go. So the JSON is how you do it. It's a big chunk of text. And then in this step, we go from that big chunk of text to these properties. And once I have that, I can, so it's a JSON that is storing a list of processes. So that is a list. And so I can iterate in this list and for each record map the properties. And this is how right now, and maybe in the near future, you won't have to do that. Airtable will just add the possibility to create records with AI. But right now, this is not available, and it's not something that you can do. This is how you do it. Okay, I have one more to show, and then some time for some questions at the end. So the last one I want to show is actually an app we use every day to post content. So that's our content machine. And this is an Airtable base where we store our upcoming LinkedIn posts, our ideas of content, where we get help to generate our newsletter, where we are trying to automate our LinkedIn comments, and other stuff. And I want to show you two workflows, again, using Generate with AI inside Airtable automation, one for ideation and one for content repurposing. So the one for ideation, if you go here, at a very, very high level, if you want to have a consistent content strategy, you need to have like a couple of like big, bold ideas. For instance, we believe firmly at 9x that AI is for business users. I'm not an engineer. And most of the people taking our courses and building automations afterwards are not engineers. They are marketers, they are people in operations, they are people in sales. And we believe that AI is for these people because it's going to enable them to automate a ton of things. And so that's one strong opinion there. And out of this opinion, can we generate topics that we could be talking about? And then with the same logic, generating topics, it's one prompt. I can show you again the automation. This one, same pattern. We're doing an extra step of finding who we should be generating this topic for, like finding the right persona, and then we generate with AI. Based on the strong opinion and the personas, generate some topics and which personas are going to be, this topic will resonate more with. Same as a JSON, we provide some example. The same 3 lines of code. This is just a comment. and then we create the records. And if it ran, you should see it here. So I don't know if it was just created. We need to check. But this one we generated, so link to the particular opinion. Marketing operations AI revolution. This is going to be particularly relevant in terms of content for marketing leads, for marketing operations manager, SEO marketers, and that's the description of the topic. Now that's one. The last one I want to show you, we use every week, and it's more on the ideation side, using AI to generate ideas, unlimited amount of ideas. On the repurposing side, we have a lot of these use cases here. So next workshop, next week, I hope to see you there, is going to be AI enrichment with Atio and Clay. We promote these workshops online, on LinkedIn, via post. This is tomorrow's post. And this is typically the type of post where you don't need to, you're not winning the literature prize here. It's just facts. Well, there's a workshop next week. This is the date. I made a mistake here. Forgot I think it's Wednesday. Anyways. So these are facts. This is the workshop, and just reply to register to the workshop. And so here I already ran it, but we can read it again. If I have an existing piece of content that is already published or it's already good, we can use a content repurposing, which is an AI automation that is going to look for other users that are not this author, so not me, and generate their version of the post, because I'm not the only one that's going to promote the workshop. My two co-founders are also going to post about it. And they're the setup, and that's one of the big advantages of Airtable. They're the setup uses tables to, again, personalize for each person a little bit more how the content is going to be. So we store in this table some information about each user. And then we have these properties, the writing style, the tone of voice, also the team they belong to. And just based off that, inside my prompt, so if we go check repost for all, repost for all, what do we do? When that button was clicked, I looked for users that are not the author, that are active and that are from 9X, from our team. Basically, I find my co-founders. And then for each author, we generate with AI, but so we are looping for each person. And there we're able to say, okay, you are Jan, co-founder of 9X. This is your LinkedIn profile. Here's LinkedIn profile. Here's the format. Here's his tone of voice, his writing style. And here's the input about the content that was just published and I want you to repurpose. Who was the author? What's the status? Etc. And we generate a hook, create the record, and then we do this as many times as there are users. So that's pretty much what I had to show you today. A little wrap up on what we've seen. Look, at a high level, current state of Airtable AI, you have co-builder. We've seen that you can build an app boilerplate with a single prompt, and I give you also a little tip on how to make a prompt that specifies your exact data requirements. We've seen an AI assistant. So the AI assistant, which is the new feature and very promising, in my opinion, is already getting pretty good results. And maybe the things that didn't work were more because of my prompts than the tool. I think there's a lot more digging to do there. And then AI fields and AI workflows. These are the first two are more on the helping you build side. AI fields and AI workflows are really to automate some data processing steps for you and embed your prompts inside Airtable fields or Airtable automations. Thank you, Diane. Are there any questions? We have a couple more time. I can also show things. Thank you, Alex. I have 10 minutes. If you want, if anyone has an idea or use case and so on, we can also live build it. Happy to do this. What are the personas? So let's dive into the personas if you want to look at this last automation. So what are the personas? Well, it's a different variable, right? So we have here. And so for us, we have, let's say, different layers. So the experts in GTM and marketing might say, this is there are way too many personas here. What are you doing? So I'm not saying you should replicate that necessarily, but at a high level, our personas, you have sort of a matrix where you have so founders and C-levels. So yeah, this is the level of seniority, and then you have also the level of the function they work in. So if you're the super senior and you work in finance, you're probably going to fall into CFO. And for these, we have for each we have descriptions of like what could be their corresponding job titles, and also some more information on like who they are, so that when you want to include a brief to Claude or ChatGPT to write some content for the finance operations manager, because this is the one we're targeting, you can see like you can really store the different parameters of your prompt in different tables. And so here for the examples I showed, like the personalized table is going to store information about the people we target. So how to personalize sales outreach with Airtable AI? Well, how would you do that? Well, we can do a quick do a speed build here. So how do we speed build this now with everything that we've learned? Okay, outreach contacts with personalized messages. Okay, let's see if it does. Scraping LinkedIn info, it might be difficult. It is one of those things where I'm not certain you can audit the reliability of the information there. If you're looking for a solution to scrape, and particularly LinkedIn data, I would look for a specialized solution there. The fact that Airtable AI can browse the web is very useful. I think it's a good solution, but I am not sure this is where they are necessarily going to excel. Also, in terms of costs, these are like, I would use that more for analysis that require AI and search, not just, so something like API. API would be API-Fi, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's a solution I hear a lot about. So let's assume we want to outreach to contacts and we want to personalize that. Very simple. Let's look at what it does here. And in the meantime, there's another question. Can I ask AI Copilot to build the same content machine as 9x and get the same result? I hope not. We spent so much time building it. Okay, so edit app. So what's our database? We have different messages, we have different contacts. Okay, so one thing you can do is using AI fields. And so for instance, instead of having the message content like this, you could have AI generate partially some parts of your message. It's also called tiramisu or icebreaker by the pros. Like tiramisu is the message you put just after the greeting, I believe. So your message would be, we take this for instance. And we look at here. You could have something like, I think it's tiramisu. I hope I'm not getting it wrong, but I think it's that. Okay, so you want to maybe have something that's more personal there. So what you would do, what you could do is generate it in a separate field and inject it here. And the way you would do this is like there's different ways. You could with the formula field you could concatenate. So you could say I have parts of the message. I have my personalization. It's also generated a field to personalize your message. So it already did it. But you will have the different pieces of your message. Either the full message is AI generated, or you have already a structure, but you want to bring some personalization, and then you would use a function like this and say, I want, what was the field? I want a message content. And I'm going to add my, what was it? Personalization. It's not going to be placed in the right part, but with a mix of formulas and inserting content on like basically gluing the different pieces together, you might be able to recreate your entire your personalized message this way. Hope this helps. Okay. Do you provide APIs or MCPs to incorporate in our applications? So is that a question to Airtable? Maybe Siad, if you're still here, can you explain your question? So whether Airtable is an API, yes. Well, this I can answer. MCP, I'm not sure. I don't think so. The Airtable API, so there's different ones. Every Airtable base, this one that we just generated, I couldn't make this up because it's just been AI generated. Every Airtable base right here has an API. That lets you query, basically do CRUD against the database. So create record, read record, update record, and I believe in the API, delete records. Yes. So this is all generated, and whenever you make one change to the database, you're going to be able to see that in the API. Additionally, if you use no-code platforms like Make or Zapier, N8N, Lindy, there's a lot that you can do with Airtable. Like those actions will be available and even more. And Airtable, that's one of the APIs available, but you can also go a little bit more meta, and you can generate. And what we've seen in the UI right now, with me prompting, I'm pretty sure there are different ways you can do that also via the API. So you can sort of like generate boilerplates of Airtable applications if you already have some specific requirements. For MCP, I do not know. And for scraping, so for those of you who wanted to scrape, Airpify and Firecrawl seem to be two names that we are also here on a recurring basis. Okay. Well, I was right on time, 90 minutes, time flies. I hope you enjoyed this session. I hope you learned a few things. I certainly did by preparing, like I had to level up a little bit. I hope if you have not yet started using Airtable, that you're convinced that you should jump on this platform, and that also Airtable AI is worth paying for. I really think this is not just a little bit of AI spiced on top of an already excellent platform. It is really the next shift for Airtable. And given the velocity, since they launched Airtable AI, the velocity of new features there, I wouldn't be surprised if in a year from now, what we've seen today is going to look outdated, and there's going to be a lot more things available for us. So give it a shot, and I hope to see you all, or most of you, to next week, especially those who were talking about GTM and outreach. I highly recommend looking at Clay, and we'll see. We'll show you our setup. As simple as that. So there's no demo, real world application, and how we set up our CRM. All right. Thank you all. It was a pleasure. Till next time. Bye bye.